I had exactly $312.47 in my checking account the morning my mother texted, "Proud of you for being independent." She sent it while I was still in a post-op brace, doped on pain meds, staring at an email that said my student loan balance had entered default because the payment she'd promised to spot me never arrived. The core betrayal wasn't new. $48,600 is what they refused to help me cover for tuition and housing. The same year, they wired $92,000 to my younger brother for the right school and the right network. What was new was the small padded envelope that showed up at my apartment that afternoon. No return address. Just my name in block letters and a cheap plastic USB inside. One file sat on it. If you ever need the truth. I fumbled the cap with my stiff fingers and felt my stomach drop. There was a legal path in that file, one that could freeze everything my mother had been quietly moving. Let me take you back. I grew up in a brick house in Asheville, North Carolina, where the mountains make you feel like the world is smaller than it is. From the street, our place looked steady. Trimmed hedges, a porch swing, my dad's truck parked with the precision of someone who liked control. Inside, the air was always a little tense, like someone had just put down a glass too hard. My mother, Janice Rowe, ran our family the way she ran her volunteer committees, smiling, organized, and ruthless about optics. My father, Dale, did what he always did. He stayed quiet enough to survive her moods. And then there was my brother, Ethan. Golden, easy, funny in a way people forgave. He didn't ask for the spotlight. He simply stood in it and let it warm him. I was the one who handled the cold. Janice never called it favoritism. She called it investment. Ethan was a leader. Ethan was a natural. Ethan needed the right environment. Me? I was resourceful. It sounded like a compliment until you realized it meant, we won't help you. There's a moment I think about sometimes because it was so small and so clean, it almost doesn't count as cruelty unless you lived it. I was 16 and I'd won a regional science award. Nothing dramatic, just a scholarship certificate and a picture with a governor's aide who didn't know my name. I brought it home and held it out to my mom, still in my backpack straps. She glanced at it like she was checking a grocery receipt. "That's nice," she said, and handed it back. "Don't let it go to your head." Then, without looking up from her laptop, "Ethan's got practice. We need to leave in 10. I stood there holding my own achievement like it was a coat I didn't know where to hang. The second incident was worse because it was deliberate. Senior year, Ethan got accepted early decision to a private college. Janice threw a family dinner that was really an announcement party. She printed out his acceptance letter and framed it like a diploma. She called relatives in 3 states. She posted the photo before he even confirmed his enrollment. That same week, I got into UNC Charlotte with merit aid. I didn't need applause. I needed a gap covered. Books, housing, the part scholarships never brag about. I built a spreadsheet. I rehearsed my ask. I waited until dinner when my dad had already eaten enough to look tired, and my mom had already poured her second glass of wine. "I need help," I said, calm, careful. "Not forever, just to bridge the gap. It's $48,600 over 4 years. I can handle the rest with work study and loans." Janice didn't open my folder. She didn't even touch it. She leaned back in her chair like she was diagnosing a stranger. "Riley," she said. My name always sounded like a warning in her mouth. "You need to learn independence." I said it anyway, because sometimes you say the truth like it's a prayer. "You're paying for Ethan." Janice's expression didn't change. "Ethan's circumstances are different." "They're not," I said. "You just like him better." That was the first time my father looked up. His eyes moved from his plate to my face, and for half a second I thought he would do something brave. He didn't. Janice folded her napkin, neat as a closing argument. "If you want it badly enough, you'll figure it out." Then her voice turned almost gentle, the way you'd talk to someone you wanted to feel small without realizing you'd pushed them there. You've always been resilient, she said. It's your gift. My brother stared at his phone. He didn't look up. He didn't say a word. I remember the sound of my own folder closing, paper sliding against paper, and how loud it felt in a room that didn't care. That night, I didn't run away in a dramatic way. I did it quietly because quiet was the only thing they couldn't argue with. I packed my essentials. I left my key on the counter next to the coffee machine Janice set every morning at 6 like a ritual. No note, no plea. I walked out before dawn. In the driveway, my dad stood by the garage, one hand on the handle, like he'd been there for a while. He didn't stop me. He just said softly, like it was a private thought, "Your mom's complicated." I looked at him. So am I. Watch me be complicated somewhere else. And then I got in my friend's car, the only friend who had the gas money, and left Asheville in the gray light with my chest tight and my throat dry. College was not a montage. It was a grind. It was working at a medical billing office in the afternoons, serving at a brewery on weekends, and teaching myself data cleanup at night because I realized quickly that hospitals ran on paper-thin systems held together by exhausted people. I did it because no one else was going to do it for me. By junior year, I'd found a professor, Dr. Mendez, who saw me the way my mother never did. Not as overhead, not as a problem, but as a person with capacity. "You're tired," Dr. Mendez told me after class one day. Not a question. I gave her the short version, because long versions were for people who planned to stay. She didn't pity me. She slid a printed list across her desk: internal assistantships, paid research roles, small grants that never made headlines but kept students afloat. "You're not weak for needing support," she said. "You're human." Those words stayed with me. So did my mother's voice, but I learned how to place it at a distance. I graduated. No parents in the stands, no family dinner, just my roommate and a few friends who screamed loud enough to feel like a crowd. I moved to Charlotte for work and got hired at a mid-size healthcare software company. The job wasn't glamorous, but it taught me how systems break and how people get crushed when they do. I started building a tool on the side, something simple at first. A compliance dashboard for small clinics that kept missing audit deadlines because their system was a shared spreadsheet and a prayer. It grew. 2 years later, I incorporated Rowan Ledger, LLC. I used my middle name in the business filings because I didn't want my family name on anything I built. I wanted my life to be something Janice couldn't claim later as proof of her parenting. I was doing okay. Not rich. Not safe in the way people with parents like mine were safe, but stable. And then, at 26, I blew out my knee in a stupid accident. Wet stairs, a rushed morning, my brain already in work mode. Surgery wasn't optional. Recovery wasn't quick. I was in that vulnerable state people don't talk about enough. Not dying, not tragic, just limited, and therefore easy to exploit. The day before my operation, Janice called. Her voice was syrupy, like she'd rehearsed warmth. "I heard about your knee," she said. "Yeah," I answered because yes felt too generous. "Well," she sighed, "you know, we worry." I waited. I always waited. With Janice, the caring part was just the wrapping paper. "Your father and I talked," she continued. "We can help you with a few payments while you're out of work." I didn't ask why. I didn't let myself hope. I just said, "Okay." Her tone sharpened, almost satisfied. "But I need you to sign something. Just standard. If anything happens, we can handle your affairs. It's called a power of attorney. Everyone does it." I knew enough to be cautious, but I was tired, scared, and I didn't have a backup plan if complications hit. I asked for a copy to review. "Oh, honey," Janice said, like I was adorable for thinking I deserved time. "It's boilerplate." That's the thing about boilerplate. It's where people hide the fire. I told her to email it. She did. And here's my flaw, the one that mattered later. I was so used to being denied that when someone finally offered help, I wanted to believe it was real. I read it quickly. I saw the words I expected. I didn't see the extra clause buried under real property management. I signed it electronically. After surgery, my brain felt like cotton. The pain meds made time soft around the edges. I missed a loan payment. Then another. Janice had said she'd spot me until I was back on my feet. Instead, she sent that text. Proud of you for being independent. 2 days later, my landlord called. Hey, Riley, he said, uncomfortable. I got a notice. What notice? A lien notice. It's from a law firm. It says your apartment is part of a dispute? I don't know. I just rent this place out. I sat up too fast and nearly threw up. A lien on my apartment? I asked. I don't own this apartment. There was a pause. Paper rustling. It's on your storage unit lease. It's attached to your name and address. Storage unit. Not apartment. I had a storage unit because I'd been downsizing, trying to cut costs. That unit held almost everything I owned that didn't fit in my place. My old textbooks, my business records, the laptop backups I kept because I didn't fully trust clouds. I drove there in a brace and a haze and found the lock cut. Inside, the unit looked like someone had rummaged through my life, angry at the shape of it. Boxes open, folders scattered. A drawer unit tipped on its side like it had been kicked. The manager approached me with a clipboard and an apologetic face. I'm sorry, she said. We had paperwork. The person had authority. What person? My voice sounded thin even to me. She hesitated. Your mother. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline that didn't exist. She showed a power of attorney, the manager continued. We verified the ID. She said she needed access to your records for what? I asked. She swallowed. She didn't say. I left that unit shaking. That night, no, not Lena. That was someone else's story. In mine, my best friend was Sasha Kim, an ER nurse with calm hands and zero tolerance for nonsense. Sasha had carried me up my apartment stairs after surgery like I was a stubborn package. When I told her what happened, she didn't gasp. She didn't dramatize it. She said simply, "That's not help, that's control." I put the phone face down. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the signed document, and that's when I saw it. A clause under a heading I'd skimmed. Agent shall have authority to manage, encumber, and negotiate any and all real property interests, contractual leases, and business assets, including intellectual property, on principal's behalf. Business assets. Intellectual property. My stomach tightened in a way pain meds couldn't soften. Because Rowan Ledger, my company, was my asset. My code, my platform, my client contracts, all of it. And Janice had access. I called a lawyer the next morning. Not a family lawyer. Not someone who would smile at Janice's charm and call it complicated. A real attorney. Monica Patel, business litigation and estate planning. She had a small office with clean lines and a framed quote behind her desk that said something like, "Facts don't have feelings," but she didn't need decor to prove she meant it. She read my POA in silence. Her eyes moved slower when she hit the clause I'd missed. "You signed this electronically," she said. "Yes." "Did she tell you what it meant?" "She said it was boilerplate." Monica nodded once, as if filing that away under predictable. "You're not the first," she said, "but we can't just be angry. We have to be precise." I exhaled, shaky. "What did she do?" Monica held up a hand. "We don't guess. We verify. First, we revoke this immediately. We file a revocation and notify any institutions she might contact. Second, we audit your corporate records." "Audit?" I echoed. Monica leaned forward. "Your company is an LLC. If she used that document to sign anything, there will be a paper trail. We request it. If anyone accepted her signature improperly, we hold them accountable. But you need to understand something. If your mother is moving assets, she's not doing it for the joy of paperwork. She's doing it because there's an end game. My mouth felt dry. What end game? Monica's expression stayed calm. Usually, ownership. That was the first time in years I felt the old, familiar shame rise up. The shame of being naive, of being the kid who wanted love and got invoices instead. And then Monica said something that anchored me. This isn't revenge. This is justice. I nodded like I could hold on to that sentence and not fall apart. We filed the revocation that afternoon. Certified mail, email notice, a recorded call to the storage company. Monica didn't just stop the bleeding, she sealed the wounds with paperwork. Then, 2 days later, the padded envelope arrived. No return address. A cheap USB. One file. If you ever need the truth. I didn't plug it in immediately because I'm not an idiot. I brought it straight to Monica. She didn't smile. She didn't ask who it was from. She handed it to her paralegal. Air-gapped laptop, Monica said. We don't introduce unknown devices to our systems. Her paralegal, a woman named Kara, with tired eyes and a posture that said she'd seen too much, plugged it in. The file opened. It was a folder. Inside were scans, emails, and a single PDF titled Rowan Ledger Membership Transfer. Executed. My pulse went loud in my ears. Monica's eyes narrowed. Open it. Kara opened the PDF, and the first page looked like legal language designed to bore you into surrender. But Monica read it fast, and I watched her face shift from concentration to something colder. This is a membership interest transfer, she said. What does that mean? I asked, even though I already knew enough to fear it. It means, Monica said carefully, someone attempted to transfer ownership of your LLC, or a portion of it. My throat tightened. To who? Monica looked at Kara. Kara clicked to the signature page, and there it was. My name, typed in a cursive font that wasn't mine, and Janice's signature as agent. The transferee line read, Rowe Family Holdings Trust. A trust, not Ethan, not my father. A vehicle. Monica sat back. Okay, she said. Now we have a structure. I stared at the screen like it might change if I hated it hard enough. I never signed that, I whispered. Monica didn't look away from the document. I know. Kara clicked again. There's metadata. That word, metadata, had always been part of my work, something I taught clients to respect. It was timestamps, device identifiers, edit history, the fingerprints of a file. Kara pulled up the Properties panel, created on January 9th, modified on January 11th. Author field, J. Rowe. But the real detail was the Creator Tool field, a specific PDF editor tied to a licensed account. Monica looked at me. Do you recognize this software license? I shook my head. Kara's lips pressed together. It's registered to a law firm. Monica's voice went even. Which one? Kara clicked into the email chain included in the USB folder. The subject line hit like a slammed door. Transfer package for Janice Rowe, confidential. The law firm's signature at the bottom read, Hawthorne and Brigg, LLP. I knew that name. Hawthorne and Brigg was the firm Janice used for everything. Estate updates, neighborhood zoning complaints, HOA disputes. She loved them because they wrote letters that sounded like threats without crossing lines. My hands shook. Monica didn't flinch. We can work with this. How did someone get this? I asked. Kara didn't look at me. Her eyes stayed on the screen. I did, she said quietly. I blinked. You did? Kara swallowed, then forced herself to meet my eyes. I used to work there. Monica glanced at Kara, not surprised, like she already knew. Like she'd hired Kara because of this possibility. Kara's voice stayed controlled, but I could hear something underneath it. Regret, maybe. Or anger, that had learned to behave. "Your mother came in," Kara said. "She said you were recovering and needed help. She's very convincing. She said she was protecting the family. She wanted your business moved into the trust because she said you were unstable. Her word." My face went hot. Unstable. Kara nodded once. I saw the power of attorney. I saw how broad it was. I didn't like it, but I was new, and that firm doesn't reward questions. Monica's tone was gentle but firm. "Kara, tell her the rest." Kara exhaled. There was a second folder. My stomach dropped. The second folder. The kind of phrase that sounds dramatic until you're the one living inside it. Kara clicked through the USB contents and opened another PDF. Asset schedule, Rowan Ledger, clients, IP. It listed my clinic clients. It listed projected revenue. It listed my code modules like they were household furniture. And on the last page, there was an email that made my skin go cold. From Janice to the law firm. Once the transfer is complete, we can approach her largest client and renegotiate under the trust. She will thank us later. If she resists, we'll remind her what independence costs. I stared at it until the words blurred. Monica said quietly, "The second folder changed everything." Because that email wasn't help. It wasn't family. It was intent. It was a plan to take what I built, use my recovery window as leverage, and rewrite my life the way Janice always had, like she was the author and I was a footnote. My phone buzzed on the table, a calendar reminder I hadn't deleted. Ethan, Mountain Arts Foundation Gala, Thursday. I froze. The Mountain Arts Foundation was Asheville's big charity machine, donor dinners, scholarship announcements, the kind of place Janice loved because it gave her a microphone without calling it one. And I knew, suddenly, why she was moving fast. Because Janice was about to be honored. Sasha had mentioned it 2 weeks earlier like it was small talk. "Your mom's getting some community award thing, right? She posted a photo in that stupid sequined dress." I hadn't cared. Now I did. I looked at Monica. "She's going to announce something." Monica didn't ask how I knew. She just nodded slowly. "Public events are leverage," she said. "If she's about to be celebrated, she may use that stage to establish a narrative. That's what people like her do. They lay groundwork, then they act." My mouth went dry. "Can we stop her?" Monica's voice stayed calm. "We can, but there's a clock." She reached for a legal pad and wrote in neat block letters, "TRO, Pulse Injunction." "Temporary restraining order," she explained, seeing my eyes. "It's a fast court order that can freeze transactions and stop her from acting on your behalf. But for the judge to grant it, we need to show imminent harm, not just suspicion, proof of attempted transfer, proof she's about to move on it." I swallowed. "We have the transfer." "We do," Monica said, "but the court will want to know if it's been submitted, accepted, or acted upon. And if we miss this..." Monica looked me dead in the face. "If you miss this," she said, "you lose everything." The line landed in my chest like a weight, not just the company, the stability, the proof that I wasn't who Janice said I was. Because if Janice took my work and tucked it into her trust, she wouldn't just steal it. She'd rewrite it as hers. We moved into strategy mode. Monica sent out demand letters that same afternoon, one to Hawthorne and Brigg requesting their file under threat of litigation, one to my bank to flag any POA activity, one to my biggest client to place them on notice that any contract modifications must be verified directly with me. She explained each term as she used it, because Monica didn't believe in mystique. "An affidavit," she said, "is a sworn statement. You'll sign one describing the timeline. It's evidence." "Notarized signature," she added, "means the court can trust you actually signed it. It reduces arguments." She pointed at the trust name on the document. "This is likely an irrevocable trust. They use it to move assets out of reach. It's legal when done honestly. It's fraud when used like this. And fraud, she said, tapping the email where my mother mentioned renegotiating my contracts, has carve-outs. Contracts often have fraud carve-out clauses that allow immediate termination and damages if misrepresentation is involved. That matters if she contacts your clients. Kara worked quietly beside us, pulling timestamps, preserving file integrity, capturing hash values. Explain that, I said, because my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Kara looked at me. We're making a forensic audit trail. If your mother's attorneys claim the file was altered, we can prove it wasn't. Hash values are like fingerprints. Sasha sat in the corner with her arms crossed, keeping watch like a bodyguard who worked in scrubs. Every few minutes, my knee would throb, and I'd remember my vulnerability. The fact that Janice had chosen this window because she believed I'd be too tired to fight. My own flaw, the one that mattered, was that I still wanted my father to be different. Because when the certified revocation notice hit their mailbox, my dad called me. His voice sounded strained, the way it always did when Janice was nearby. "Riley," he said, "your mother is upset." I laughed once, short, not amused, just unable to find another sound. "I revoked the POA," I said. Silence. Then quietly, "She said you're accusing her." "I'm not accusing," I said. "I'm responding." Another silence. And then my father said the thing he always said. Just, don't make it public. I closed my eyes. The old ache rose like muscle memory. "You mean, don't embarrass her," I said. He exhaled. "You know what I mean." I wanted to hang up. Instead, because I still had that stupid soft spot where hope lived, I said, "Dad, did you know?" A pause that was one breath too long. "I didn't," he said, but the answer didn't land as truth. After the call, Sasha looked at me like she could read my spine bending. "Don't," she said quietly. "I'm not," I lied. But I was. Part of me was still waiting for a father to appear who had never existed. That evening, Monica got a response from Hawthorne and Brigg. Not the file, not compliance, a threat. A letter on expensive letterhead, polished and smug. It said the transfer was for my protection, that I was in a compromised condition, and that any attempt to interfere would be met with appropriate legal action. Monica read it, then slid it across the desk to me. "They're posturing," she said, "but they also revealed something." "What?" I asked. Monica pointed at a line in the letter. "Our client intends to finalize this matter prior to the Mountain Arts Foundation Gala." There it was. Imminent harm. The gala wasn't a coincidence. It was a deadline. Monica looked at me. "We file tomorrow morning." We worked through the night. I signed my affidavit with a trembling hand while Kara notarized it. Monica drafted a complaint for injunctive relief. Stop the transfer, freeze any trust actions, prevent Janice from representing herself as my agent. She added a request for an asset freeze, not of Janice's life, not of their house, not anything dramatic, but of any transaction involving my LLC membership interests, bank accounts, and contract rights until the dispute was resolved. "You're not asking the court to punish," Monica said. "You're asking the court to prevent theft." At 8:12 a.m., Monica filed. By noon, we had a hearing set, emergency docket, same week. And then, at 4:06 p.m., my mother did exactly what she always did when cornered. She performed, she called, not me, everyone else. My phone lit up with family numbers I hadn't seen in years. Cousins, an aunt, a church friend who used to pinch my cheek. I didn't answer. Janice then did something she hadn't done in a decade. She left a voicemail. Her voice was trembling in that practiced way, like she was auditioning for sympathy. "Riley," she said, "I don't understand why you're doing this. After everything we've done for you, you're trying to destroy this family. You're sick right now, and you're confused, and you're letting outsiders manipulate you. Please, come home. Let your father and me take care of you. We can fix this." I stared at my phone until it went dark. Then I deleted the voicemail. Then I waited. The gala arrived on Thursday anyway, because Janice didn't change plans. She never did. Optics were oxygen. The Mountain Arts Foundation rented out a renovated textile mill downtown. Exposed brick, string lights, a small stage, auction items arranged like wealth was tasteful if you displayed it correctly. Sasha drove. Monica insisted she come too in case Janice tried to corner me without witnesses. Kara came as well, but she wore a simple black dress and kept her hair back. She looked like someone trying to be invisible in a room full of people who loved being seen. I didn't want to go. Every rational cell in my body wanted to stay home, brace my knee, and fight in court, not under chandeliers. But Monica had said something earlier that stuck. "If she's using the gala as a narrative tool," Monica said, "we can use it as a truth tool, but only if we're careful." We arrived late, on purpose because I didn't want to be seated near anyone I knew. And yet, the room found me anyway. It started with a whisper, then a second. Then the subtle shift of heads turning. Asheville is small like that. People recognize your face before they remember your name. I saw my father at a table near the stage. He looked older than he should have, his shoulders slightly slumped, his tie too tight. Next to him, Janice sat like a queen who'd never questioned her own crown. Silver dress, hair glossy, smile calibrated. Ethan wasn't at their table. That hit me harder than I expected, because it meant he'd chosen his own kind of silence, absence. A hostess tapped the microphone. The auctioneer joked. The room laughed at the right beats. Then the foundation director stepped up. "We're honored tonight," she said, "to recognize someone who has given so much to this community." Janice's smile widened. A woman who embodies resilience, dedication, and family values. Janice tilted her head as if humility was a skill she'd mastered. Mrs. Janice Rowe. Applause rose, chairs scraped, people stood. Janice rose as well, one hand over her heart like she was receiving a blessing. And then, as she approached the stage, the lights flickered. Once, twice. A soft murmur moved through the room. The stage lights went out. Then the entire room went dim, as if the building took a breath and forgot how to exhale. A power outage. You could feel the collective irritation of wealthy donors forced to experience inconvenience. Emergency lighting clicked on, thin strips along the walls. The director laughed nervously into a dead microphone. "Looks like Asheville wants to remind us we're not in control," she joked. But Janice froze mid-step because what she craved most in the world was a functioning stage. And that's when Monica's phone buzzed. She glanced down. Her face sharpened. "We just got notice," she whispered to me. "She filed something an hour ago." "What?" My stomach dropped. "A UCC filing," Monica said. "A lien-like claim against your business assets. It's a way to create the appearance of ownership or secured interest." My knee throbbed and suddenly I felt cold. "She did it anyway," I whispered. Monica nodded. "And now we have exactly what we need." The director tried to stall, talking without amplification. People shifted impatiently. Janice turned and scanned the room, looking for someone to blame. Her gaze landed on me. Even in the dim light, I felt it like a hand around my throat. She walked toward my table fast, controlled, the way she used to walk toward me in my bedroom when she'd already decided I was wrong. Sasha stood up beside me, subtle but solid. Janice stopped short when she saw Sasha. Then she looked at Monica. "Riley," Janice said, voice bright enough for nearby ears. "There you are. Sweetheart, this isn't the place." Monica's expression stayed professional. "Actually, Mrs. Rowe, this is a public place." Janice's smile tightened. "I'm speaking to my daughter." And I'm her counsel, Monica said. Janice's eyes flicked to the emergency lights, then back to me. You're embarrassing yourself. My voice came out calm, even though my hands were shaking under the table. You filed a UCC claim against my company. Janice blinked once. I don't know what you're talking about. Monica tilted her phone toward her. We received the filing notice. It's in your name as agent. Janice's face did something I'd seen before. Calculation behind the eyes, the moment where she chooses which reality to sell. You're confused, she said softly, like she was comforting me. You're recovering. You signed papers. We're protecting you. A man at the next table leaned slightly closer, curiosity piqued. A woman's eyebrows rose. Janice noticed. She always noticed. She lowered her voice. We can discuss this at home. I looked at her. Really looked. 9 years ago, that would have been a threat. Now it was just an offer to step back into her script. No, I said. 1 syllable. Clean. We'll discuss it in court. Janice's smile slipped. Not fully, but enough that it looked like strain. This isn't you, she hissed, just quiet enough to still sound polite. You're being manipulated. Sasha's voice was even. She's being protected. Janice's eyes snapped to Sasha. Who are you? Sasha didn't blink. Someone who carries people after surgery. Someone who's watched what you do when someone can't stand. Janice's jaw tightened. The director suddenly announced, voice raised, that the backup generator might restore power soon. People began to settle again, hungry for the program to resume. Janice leaned toward me, and for 1 second her performance dropped entirely. You think you can take this from me? She whispered. After everything I built? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move closer. I built my company, I said. You tried to take it. Janice's nostrils flared just slightly. You always had to make things hard, she said, the old line slipping out like muscle memory. Ethan never did this. There it was, the truth she could never quite hide. Monica stepped forward and held out a document, calm as a cashier handing over a receipt. This is the TRO, Monica said. It was granted an hour ago. Janice blinked. What? Monica's tone stayed neutral. A temporary restraining order. You are prohibited from acting as her agent, transferring any interest, contacting her clients, or filing any further claims. You've already violated it by filing that UCC an hour ago. Janice's face went pale in the emergency lighting. Don't be dramatic, she snapped, but her voice trembled. This is the law, Monica said, and handed her the papers. A man 2 tables away, older, expensive suit, stood up slowly, frowning. Janice, he called out, not loud, but clear. Is this about your daughter's business? Because I'm on the foundation board. A social twist I hadn't planned, but the room had its own gravity. Janice turned, smile trying to reboot. Of course not, Harold. It's a misunderstanding. Harold didn't sit. Because if there's legal trouble at our gala, it becomes our trouble. Janice looked around. People were watching now, not for entertainment, but for clarity. And that's when the lights came back on. Bright, harsh, unforgiving. The microphone crackled to life. The director's relieved laugh sounded hollow now, because the room had shifted. Janice stood in the middle of it, papers in hand, her face caught between rage and panic, her carefully built narrative interrupted by actual consequences. She tried one last angle. She lifted the TRO papers slightly and said, voice quivering, My daughter is unwell. She's being taken advantage of. Monica leaned toward the microphone stand near the director, didn't touch it, didn't seize the stage, just spoke clearly enough for those nearby to hear. Mrs. Rowe attempted to transfer ownership of my client's LLC into a family trust while my client was in post-operative recovery, Monica said. We have documentation. We're handling it through the court. Janice whipped toward Monica. "How dare you?" Harold, the board member, raised his hand slightly. Not dramatic, just enough. "Janice," he said, "this is not the place." Janice's eyes darted around. She was looking for allies. She found none. Because the room didn't know our history. They didn't know the way she'd taken my childhood piece by piece. They only knew what was in front of them. Legal papers, a lawyer, a daughter standing quietly with a knee brace, and a mother trying to call it love. Janice's voice turned sharp. "Riley, tell them." I looked at her. I thought of the tuition dinner, the spreadsheet, the word independent. My father's silence, Ethan's absence, and the storage unit, my lock cut, my life rummaged through. I didn't need a speech. "She said she'd help me while I recovered," I said calmly. "Instead, she tried to take my company." A beat of silence. Then Harold said, "That's not philanthropy." Janice flinched as if slapped. The director cleared her throat, trying to salvage the program. "Let's continue," she said. But it was too late. The gala had already split open. Janice didn't go on stage. She couldn't. She stood there holding legal papers like they were something dirty she didn't want photographed. My father approached slowly, as if he'd been moving through water for years. He looked at me, eyes wet, and I saw the old cowardice in him, and something else too. Fear, because the truth had reached daylight. "Riley," he whispered, "please." I cut him off gently. "Not here." He nodded once, defeated. And then Janice did the most Janice thing imaginable. She turned to the room, lifted her chin, and said, "I apologize for the interruption. Family matters can be complicated." Then she walked away like she still owned the narrative. But the narrative didn't follow her this time. Because consequences had timestamps. The hearing was the next morning. Monica sat beside me in court, files organized in a way that made me feel less alone. Kara sat behind us, ready to testify if needed. Sasha sat on my other side like a wall. Janice arrived with Hawthorne and Brigg, two attorneys in matching suits and polished expressions. My father sat behind her, shoulders hunched. Ethan wasn't there. Again. The judge was a woman with silver hair and a voice that didn't waste time. Monica presented the evidence in a clean sequence. The signed POA, the attempted membership transfer, the email where Janice described her plan, the forensic metadata, the UCC filing after the TRO was granted. Janice's attorney tried to argue that everything was for my protection, that I was vulnerable, that the trust was a family planning vehicle. The judge held up a hand. "Is the plaintiff incompetent?" Janice's attorney hesitated. "No, Your Honor." "Has there been any formal determination that she cannot manage her affairs?" "No." The judge's gaze shifted to Janice. "Then why were transfers initiated without her knowledge?" Janice's lips parted, and I knew she wanted to speak. She wanted to charm the room. But courtrooms don't run on charm. They run on documents. Monica introduced one more exhibit, something she'd requested overnight after the gala. A copy of the Rowe Family Holdings Trust. Janice's attorney stiffened slightly. Monica's voice stayed steady. "Your Honor, the trust contains a clause that makes this urgent." She handed the judge a highlighted page. "It's a canary clause," Monica explained, turning slightly so the judge could follow. "If any beneficiary challenges the trust's handling of assets, they are automatically disinherited and removed. Mrs. Rowe's attempted transfer wasn't just about protecting my client. She was positioning her to lose everything if she fought back." The judge's face didn't change much, but her eyes sharpened. The courtroom went silent. Janice's attorney swallowed. "That's a standard deterrent clause." The judge looked at him. "It's a standard deterrent clause when someone is trying to deter someone." Janice's face went pale. Monica continued. "And Your Honor, The defendant violated the TRO by filing the UCC claim after it was served. The judge nodded slowly, then looked directly at Janice. "Mrs. Rowe," the judge said, "you were given an order. You disregarded it. That is contempt." Janice's eyes flashed. "I didn't understand." The judge's voice stayed calm. "You understood enough to hire counsel and execute transfers." Janice's attorneys shifted, uncomfortable. The judge ruled in under 10 minutes. The TRO became a preliminary injunction. The UCC filing was ordered withdrawn. Janice was barred from contacting my clients or representing herself as my agent. A forensic audit of my LLC records was ordered, and Monica was granted permission to pursue damages for fraud and interference. And then, because the judge had seen enough, she added something simple that cracked the entire illusion. "Family relationships do not exempt anyone from legal boundaries," she said. Janice sat down like the air had been pulled from her. Outside the courtroom, my father caught up to me, breathing hard, like he'd been running for years and only now realized he was tired. "Riley," he said, voice shaking, "I didn't know about the trust clause." I looked at him. "You didn't ask." His mouth opened, closed, his eyes filled. And then he said something I hadn't heard from him in my entire life. "I was wrong," he whispered. "I let her do it." The words didn't heal anything, but they were real, for once. Janice walked past us without looking at me. Her attorneys flanked her like bodyguards. She didn't speak. She didn't perform. She couldn't. Because court is a place where your face doesn't matter as much as your filings. The fallout came in waves. The first wave was professional. Because once the injunction existed, my clients were notified in a legally appropriate way. Not gossip, not drama. Just a factual notice that any attempted contact from Janice as agent was invalid. My largest client emailed me that afternoon. "We appreciate the clarification. Please know we stand with you. Also, your mother called last week." I stared at that sentence until my hands stopped shaking. She had already been reaching for my work. The second wave was social. The Mountain Arts Foundation Board quietly postponed Janice's award. Harold, board member, sent a careful email to donors about an unfortunate legal matter and the importance of ethics. Janice stopped posting on Facebook. Then, 3 weeks later, Monica's forensic audit uncovered the last piece. Janice had attempted to assign my software's intellectual property to the trust using the POA. It hadn't been accepted by the state registry because the filing had an error, an incorrect entity number. A clerical mistake saved me. That detail made me dizzy, not because I was grateful, but because it showed me how close it had been. Monica filed an amended complaint. Hawthorne and Brigg tried to settle quietly, offering to withdraw everything if I signed a confidentiality agreement. Monica looked at me across her desk. "If you sign that, you get peace, but you lose the truth." I thought about my childhood, how peace in my family meant silence, how silence meant she got to keep doing it. "No," I said. Monica nodded once. "Okay." We went to mediation anyway, because courts like process, but Janice couldn't help herself. She walked in smiling like the mediator was there to validate her. "You don't understand my daughter," Janice said within 5 minutes. "She's always been difficult." The mediator's eyes flicked toward Monica, then to me. Monica's voice stayed calm. "We're not here to discuss personality. We're here to discuss unauthorized transfers and contempt." Janice laughed softly, like Monica was being dramatic. And that's when Kara spoke for the first time in the room. "I was the paralegal on your file," Kara said, voice steady. "You said you wanted her assets moved before she recovered because she'd get emotional. Those were your words." Janice's smile collapsed. Allie identity twist, right there in the open. The person who had once helped move Janice's paperwork now stood against her. Janice's attorney stared at Kara, stunned. Janice's mouth opened, and for the first time I saw what I had always felt. Not a villain, not a monster, just a woman who needed control more than she needed love. "This is betrayal!" Janice hissed at Kara. Kara didn't blink. "No, this is correction." Janice turned on me then, eyes bright with fury. "Are you happy?" she said. The same line mothers like her always use when they think consequences are emotions, not math. "You're ruining this family." I looked at her, and my voice came out steady. "No," I said. "You tried to steal my life. I stopped you." Janice leaned forward. "You wouldn't exist without me." And I realized she meant it. Not biologically, legally. She saw me as property. Monica slid a settlement proposal across the table that made Janice's attorney inhale sharply. It required a signed admission of unauthorized action, withdrawal of all filings, payment of my legal fees, and, most importantly, a permanent court order recognizing the revocation and barring future agency claims. And a final clause: if Janice violated it, the penalty would escalate automatically. Monica looked at Janice. "You like deterrence," she said quietly. "So do we." Janice's hands shook. She looked at my father, who sat behind her like a shadow. He didn't speak. Ethan wasn't there. Janice signed. Not because she understood what she'd done, but because, for once, the system was bigger than her. She lost control in the only way someone like her ever truly loses. On paper. 1 year later, my knee has healed. And so has something else I didn't know could heal. Rowan Ledger is still mine, fully mine. We expanded into 2 additional states. I hired 3 engineers and a compliance lead who makes me laugh because she treats regulations like a sport. I sleep through the night now. Sasha still checks my scar sometimes like she's making sure I didn't dream the whole thing. Kara no longer works for Hawthorne and Brigg. She's in school now, finishing what she put on pause, and she texts me occasionally when she's having a rough day. I remind her what she reminded me. Doing the right thing late is still doing the right thing. My father calls once a week. Not long calls, not poetic ones. But he talks to me out loud now. He doesn't ask me to keep things quiet. He doesn't say, "Give it time." He just says, "How are you?" and waits for the answer. As for Janice, she kept the house. She kept her garden. She kept her ability to smile at strangers. But she lost her favorite weapon: access. She can't touch my company. She can't claim my work. She can't rewrite my story without a court file contradicting her. And Ethan? He finally called me 8 months after the hearing. His voice was careful. "I didn't know how bad it was," he said. I didn't yell. I didn't lecture. I said, "You didn't want to know." Silence. Then quietly, "What do you want from me?" That question used to break me. It used to make me reach for scraps. Now I answered without shaking. "I want boundaries," I said. "And honesty. If you can do those, we can talk." He exhaled. "Okay. We're not close, but we're real. And real is better than performative." There's a question people ask when they hear this story, usually in that tone that expects a clean moral. Do you feel vindicated? I don't. Vindication means I needed my mother to be wrong for me to be right. I didn't. I needed to be free. Their rejection was never my reflection. It was their limitation. And the day I stopped trying to earn a place in a story written to shrink me was the day my life finally felt like mine. If you've ever been the kid who got told to be independent while someone else got a check, I see you. Sometimes justice doesn't come from yelling. Sometimes it comes from filing, from metadata, from a judge reading a clause out loud and letting the silence do the work. And if this hit a nerve for you, tell me in the comments. Were you the golden child, the scapegoat, or the one who disappeared to survive? And yeah, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connected with this. I'd rather have a smaller room full of real people than a big one full of noise.